She started at Trident Technical College as an English instructor during the 1970s and is now the president of the college. I had a chance to talk with Mary Thornley for this edition of Quintin's Close House. So Dr. Thornley, I understand that you have been the president of Trident Tech for almost 21 years now.
Right. I was named interim in 1990 and
Yes.
the real thing in 1991.
Yeah.
Yes,
Tell
sir.
me, after all of these years, how is it going?
Well, maybe you should ask everybody else that question. All right. I mean, I'm still here,
Yes.
and this is where I want to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, let's walk down back memory lane for a moment. Tell me, how did this position come to you? Because I understand that you were in several positions before getting the president's position.
Quintin, I actually came to Trident Tech back in the 70s,
Right.
1973. I was a part-time teacher at the Palmer campus,
Right.
which was then at the Avery Institute.
Yes.
So I taught part-time for a semester, and then a full-time job in the English department came open. I applied and got it, and then I just found myself here year after year, changing jobs pretty frequently, growing as the institution grew, and then in 1990, the then president resigned.
Okay.
The board asked me to serve as interim, and then about 6 months later, I was very blessed and chosen as the 5th president of Trident Technical College.
And
I've been here since then.
yes, that's awesome. And also, I understand that you were the first female president of this college. Talk to me about that experience. How does it feel?
You know, I don't really use that as a defining moment or
Okay.
a defining feature. Maybe others do, but I almost see it as irrelevant.
Okay.
That may not be the answer you expect, but I think to the person working here at Trident Tech, it is irrelevant whether I'm male or female. I just happen to be female.
Yes.
And
Yes.
very much female.
Yes. And of course, a lot of great changes have occurred since you've been president. Tell me, did you ever think that you would be around to see many of these changes?
Well, when I came here, I had actually changed jobs every year for 5 years in a row,
Okay.
and then spent 5 years in Nashville, Tennessee, came here. I followed my husband here. I thought in a year or two we would be gone again, and that frankly didn't happen. That did not happen. So, no, when I came here, I didn't see myself here for a long time. I will tell you that I truly bought into the mission and purpose of a 2-year college.
Yes.
When I was looking at college opportunities, you didn't have community
That's
colleges.
true.
And that's too bad, because community colleges are not only the answer now, they would have been the answer in the 60s. They were born in the 60s,
Yes.
but there's a whole generation that didn't have opportunity because they couldn't afford a 4-year school,
Yes.
and there were not 2-year colleges in abundance in their communities as an option. That's the beauty of Trident Technical College. We're an affordable, high-quality option for that person who either finishes high school and wants to go get a job,
Sure.
or they think they want a 4-year degree, but they start with us because we're more affordable,
Sure.
and then they transfer. So I've really bought into what Trident Technical College is.
Yes. You know, a lot of people know you as Dr. T, but when you take off your college president's hat, who is Mary Thornley?
I probably am pretty much the same person. There's a difference, though. You won't find me in high heels, and you won't find me in hose. It will be sandals and tennis shoes and
Really?
jeans.
That's
yes.
how relaxed you are.
Yes.
That
But
is-
I think, I don't know that I would say I'm always president, but I do know that Trident Tech is a thought that is always with me, no matter whether I'm at work or on vacation. It's in my head.
Yes.
It lives there.
That is awesome. You know, I read that you had a love for teaching when you were a young kid. Tell me, where did that teaching bug come from?
Quintin, I was born on the wrong side of the tracks in a mill village. And literally born on the wrong side of the tracks. Mill Village was here. I actually was raised right outside, but I went to the Mill Village School. I was the only person in my actually there were two of us, in my graduating class who went to college, but the other young fellow was killed in a car accident. So I'm it. And my generation in my Mill Village school, their parents worked in the mills. Many of them graduated and that's what they were going to do, is stay in Concord and work in a mill. Even though I went to a Mill Village school, I had really good teachers, particularly grades 1 through 9. Really good teachers who cared about me and who created opportunity. Well, they kind of saved me, if you will.
Okay.
And because of that, I wanted to be a teacher and save others.
Yes.
So that's why the teaching was so important to me.
And as you mentioned, you grew up in the Charlotte suburb of Concord, North Carolina. When you think of Concord, what comes to mind?
It's interesting. When I grew up there, it was a mill village town dominated by cannon mills.
Okay.
Probably 90% of the people in some way earned a livelihood associated with the mills. The other 10% retail and medical. But really, it was concentrated in the mills.
Okay.
That meant that a majority of families were going to be lower class or lower middle class. What has happened now is, with the arrival of the Lowe's Speedway
Oh, yes.
and the Concord Mills shopping area, Cabarrus County, which is where Concord is located,
Okay.
is now very prosperous.
That's awesome.
A lot of people choose to live there. All the schools
Yeah.
are pretty much brand new. It's a thriving suburb of Charlotte, doing extremely well. Very unlike the little place where I was born.
Yeah. And eventually you left Concord to go to Mars Hill College. Talk to me about your time leaving from there to go to college and your memories of that college.
Okay. When I finished high school, I was valedictorian of my little graduating class, and Mr. Cannon offered a 4-year scholarship to NC State in engineering to the top student.
Okay.
That was me. However, I didn't go to NC State, and I could not see myself as an engineer.
Okay.
The second scholarship made available by Mr. Cannon was a scholarship to Mars Hill College. Mars Hill is a Baptist college. It was a 2-year college. I took that scholarship and went there. And Quintin, while I was there, Mars Hill went from being a 2-year college to a 4-year college. I took so many credits that I graduated as a 2-year graduate with an associate degree in one hand. 1 year later, I graduated with my baccalaureate. So I graduated with a BA in 3 years.
That's awesome. And from what I also read, that when your kids were a little younger, you didn't want to go to UNC, but you wanted to go to the University of South Carolina.
Well, I actually got my master's degree at UNC,
Yeah.
but I was living in Charleston when I decided to get a doctorate.
Okay.
Going through a divorce, needed to earn a living, 2 small kids.
Yeah.
Well, that limited my choices.
Yes.
The only choice viable for me was to drive up and down the highway to USC and get a degree over a period of several years. So that's how I made that decision. It was a practical decision, if you will.
Yeah, I understand that. That was one great one, too. And I also heard that you declined a job opportunity in Kentucky because your kids were so young. I'm curious, what opportunity was that?
Now, how did you know that?
My research.
Well, there was a great opportunity in Kentucky, and my daughter was already in college at Chapel Hill.
Awesome.
And my son, I remember having dinner with him at the Greek restaurant on James Island where we lived. And I said, Damon, what would you think if I wanted to move to Kentucky?
Okay.
He looked at me, and now remember, I've gone through a divorce.
Sure.
He looked at me and he said, Mom, are you miserable? I said, no. He said, well, if you were miserable, I would be happy to move with you.
Okay.
But you aren't miserable, and I'm really happy. James Island School. He was in the 8th grade, getting ready to go into the 9th. And when he said, "I'm really happy I don't want to move," I knew for 4 more years I wasn't going to ask him to move. Well, during those 4, and he graduated as valedictorian of his class.
That's awesome.
So it was a good move for him. But it turned out to be a good move for me, because if I had moved to Kentucky, I wouldn't have been here when the residency became available. So I look back and I'm really glad I stayed.
Yes, God works in mysterious ways. And during that whole turmoil, what led you to Trident Tech in the 1970s?
That one was very simple.
Okay.
My husband at that time was teaching at the College of Charleston,
Oh.
Greek and Latin,
Yes.
making $9,000 a year. I had a 4-year-old and a 6-month-old, and I just needed to earn a little extra money
Sure.
because we didn't have any, as you'd think, with 4 of us and $9,000 a year.
Sure.
So I applied at the College of Charleston and Trident Tech. I didn't even know what Trident Tech was. And then when I was offered work at both, I thought, well, I really don't want to be where he is.
Yeah.
So I'll go to this place called Trident Tech and teach part-time. And I loved it.
Yes.
From day one, I loved it.
That is awesome. Well, describe to me the following in one word: North Carolina.
Now, describe North Carolina in one word?
Oh yeah.
It's a land of opportunity because it developed with education central. The research triangle,
Yes.
that's a result of education being central to the state. So that's my description.
One word to describe teaching.
Uplifting,
Yes. One word to describe education.
essential,
One word to describe Trident Technical College.
solution,
One word to describe Dr. Mary Thornley.
industrious.
That's awesome. Well, you mentioned this earlier. You have 2 kids. For those who don't know, describe them.
My daughter lives in Palo Alto, California.
Awesome.
She has been earning her living in nonprofits, but her husband is the youngest CEO of Stanford University Hospital, and she hasn't been able to work in the year they've moved there because she's helping him.
Yeah, right.
My son is very interested in the world, public policy, international affairs.
Yes.
He is senior vice president, even though he's only 40 years old, of the Atlantic Council, which is a think tank
Right.
located in Washington.
D.C.
Obviously, I'm very proud of both of them.
Yes. Well, you know, a lot of people know you as a college president, but what is something that people don't know about you?
What is something they don't know about me? I don't think this will come as a surprise for
Okay.
you.
Okay.
My daughter and her family live in Palo Alto. My son is in D.C. The rest of my family's in Concord. My husband's family scattered throughout South Carolina. The daily reality for me is this college. The people of this college, whether they're my colleagues or whether they're students. That is the focal point at this point in my life. Almost, that really is the dominant focal point, is making the best decisions so that students have opportunity.
Sure.
If somebody can have opportunity to get a decent job, earning a decent salary, all the other things in their life can work out. Getting that paycheck, that reasonable paycheck.
And being happy. Speaking of Trident Tech, when you look into your crystal ball, what do you see for this college?
A growth and expansion. Remaining affordable because we have to, and it's a mandate.
Sure.
Figuring out ways to do that with so little funding from the state. But also expanding and growing, because when I say we are the solution, that's just not a glib elevator speech. That's coming from We are affordable. Don't tell me you can't afford to come to Trident Tech. When you subtract from our tuition, the lottery tuition assistance, it's $750 or so bucks. Now, you can swing that. You can swing that and you can transform your life. That's really important.
It really is. You know, I read that you don't think about retirement. But I have to ask, what's the next chapter for you?
I'm not thinking about retirement, so I can't answer your question.
Well, with that, Mary Dornley, it was so good talking to you.
My pleasure, young fellow.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank